All right, it's time for the After Hours show with Tony. Welcome back here, Tone. It's
Thank
I've had many times had the opportunity to have a few pints with you, and as you come out to Toronto and a number of Canadian cities when we present at the all the different options education days. And by the way, for all of our listeners that want to meet Tony in person and can make it out to the Toronto Options Education Day, it's on September 14th, right, Tone? I should
That
know
is
this, right?
correct. Yes, September
Yeah.
14th.
So it's in
And
Toronto. It's hosted by the Montreal Exchange. You get to hear Tony and myself talk about options. It's a great experience. So make sure I'll send out a link in our huddle emails for those people that are looking for it. But it's going to be fun when you're up here. We're going to go for a pint.
yeah, absolutely.
All
On
right, that's fun.
either the 13th or the 14th. And also for those of you that are in Vancouver and Calgary, we will be out there on November 30th and December 1st, I believe.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Tony, while you come up to Canada all the time, you're a New Yorker, right?
I am a New Yorker. I grew up here, and I don't think I will ever leave.
That's not true. You told me you were thinking of going to Australia.
That is true, but after thinking about it, I think New York will always be home.
All right, no, good stuff. Well, what do you like about New York that's so amazing?
I do a fair amount of travel, and there are a lot of places in the world that I love visiting, but there's just no place like New York from the perspective of just everything is available to you 24/7. And the fact that I grew up in that environment, when I'm away, I get anxiety whenever things close at 10 o'clock. I'm always that guy at 9 o'clock saying, where do I get food? What if I'm hungry at midnight? What do I do? I think people make fun of me.
Yeah.
I get food anxiety
Oh
at
my.
night. But
Hey, so Tony, it's funny you say that because we had Rob Koifman on, and he was the same way. He's a New Yorker, and he was living in London, and his big complaint was that everything closed at 10 o'clock. What is
mm,
with you New Yorkers thinking you have to have a meal at like midnight?
I don't know. It's just growing up here, and that's what you're used to. And when you're told that you can't have a meal after 10 o'clock, you get anxiety.
It's like screw you guys. I can't eat at 12.
Exactly.
This place is shit.
We can get delivery at 4 a.m. any single night of the week, and it's just
You know
just
what?
what we're accustomed to.
It's actually amazing because he said exactly the same thing, and it was unprompted. And the fact that both of you guys were complaining about the rest of the world means that you New Yorkers really are an unusual bunch that way, and that you feel like you have to have all 24 hours food available all the time. Otherwise, the city's crap.
So Tone, I'm gonna be in Manhattan
Uh-huh.
in a couple weeks. Where you got to tell me where to eat? Like, where's you're gonna have to? I'm gonna go with the family, so I'm gonna need something that's like family friendly. But you got to tell me where I should go to get a good a New York experience.
So, do you guys have a preference on cuisine? See, that's
No.
one of the things about New York, right? People come here and they say, "Where should I eat?" And there's literally a million places to eat that I don't even know where to start. So it really depends on number one, where you're staying, right? Are you staying in the
So
city? Are you staying somewhere
yeah,
else? And kind
we're
of
in Manhattan. We're I think
Manhattan
like
is a big place, Patrick.
yeah, I don't know, like I think Chelsea or something like that.
Okay, but Chelsea's a lot different than Uptown, buddy.
Is it?
So
Yeah,
he,
I guess it.
yeah.
I
So
guess it
number
is.
one, my new thing about New York is that New York has started to do what Australia and Asia has been doing for a very long time, and that's food courts. Food courts are some of the best ways to, in my experience, to experience New York food. So if you're going to be in Chelsea, you have to go to Chelsea Market. There's a
Right.
phenomenal Israeli place that I will tell you. I'll send you a separate email on how to go on that place. There are some great noodle places, but it's the best way to try a bunch of foods in New York, in my opinion. And all of a sudden, there are, I want to say, like 8 or 9 really good food courts that have popped up in New York. Historically, it's not a thing. It's really only an Asian thing. But some of the best food you get are in food courts in Asia, and New
Well,
York is
you
finally
might.
starting to catch up.
My 10-year-old son will insist that I get him a cheese pizza. So you'll have to tell me where to get
So
him one of those two.
you got to go to Joe's Pizza. They have quite a few locations, but Joe's Pizza on Bleecker Street. Get the Sicilian slice. It is the best thing ever.
Nice.
One bite. You know the rules.
One bite.
Yeah.
All right,
Anyway.
let's talk some markets.
Okay, let's talk some markets. Exactly.
So Tone, like, what do you make of what's going on here? Do you follow some of these different commodities and stuff? Like, obviously the dollar's moving a little bit, but the stock market rolled over. But do you have any opinions on what's going on, like in crude oil or any of these other markets?
So gold looks a little overbought right now. Crude, crude is an interesting commodity right now because right now the trade war certainly has hurt demand, but we're hearing about OPEC potentially trying to cut supply, which will obviously help oil prices. But I think overall, oil prices are potentially heading lower. 50 is really kind of a big support level. We've been having lower highs with 50 as that major support level. I think if we break down below 50, you're going to start seeing 45, 44, those types of levels to the downside.
Right. And do you have a particular opinion about these energy companies?
Ooh, energy is still by far, the worst sector. It's a sector that I haven't really touched recently. I did go long Halliburton a couple of weeks ago when things started to look like they were starting to come
when it
back
had a little
higher.
gap.
Yeah. Obviously, that trade didn't work out. That's the only thing that I've touched in the energy space. I'm just looking at a chart right now. It looks like Schlumberger, Jay, Halliburton are all making all-time lows. This is a sector that I have not touched very much, other than trying to go long a couple of weeks ago, and that did not work out.
So you're gonna wait for like the relative strength for this sector, the whole sector, to turn around, and then you'll start paying attention. Then, are you waiting for the first bottoming formations to start developing here?
Yes. So as far as for me to go long a market, I try to look for some form of relative strength. And I thought energy was starting to show that, but it just collapsed right after it started to show a little bit of strength. But a lot of my trading is very quant driven. So I like to find things that are relatively severely oversold, sell put spreads on those types of stocks. Or stocks that I see have completed a bit of a bottoming formation for me to go long.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's just what our models, seem to favor.
All right. So you said gold is a little oversold. Overbought. What's your take here? I mean, are we? There's a short-term top coming in here potentially. What's your feeling on gold?
I think selling call spreads on gold, can potentially be a favorable trade for the next few weeks. I think that this what's GLD at, about 141 of 142. I think selling 142, buying back 145, 146 type call spreads makes a bit of sense on a small pullback. I haven't really looked at the dollar index lately.
But now, when you open a credit spread, do you allow it to go in the money and just give it a little breathing room if it's on the short term going against you, or do you really just want to see the trade start working in your favor right away? Like, how do you manage a trade because I mean 142 is pretty tight, right? Like, when do you make that distinction that you're a little bit early? When do you pull it and go to the sideline, and what duration do you put on these types of credit spreads?
So with credit spreads, we've done a lot of quant research on backtesting credit spreads. And from our perspective, the best credit spreads are selling at the money. So I would actually even go maybe 142, 141 and a half, maybe even the 141s, considering we're just, 19 cents shy of that 141.
Slightly in the money, right?
Yeah. Because what you really want is for the risk on a credit spread to not be greater than 2 times the income that you receive. If you're risking more than 2 times the income that you receive, it's really difficult to make money in this strategy in the long run because of that negative risk to reward ratio. So if I'm selling credit spreads, I want this thing to be in the money. I want this trade to be working in my favor immediately, or else I'm cutting my losses and I'm pulling the cord on this.
So what would you say how often are you more of an income trader versus a directional trader, where you're how often are you short theta versus long theta?
So I would say that nowadays, I'm saying
And that's
I'm pretty
personal.
close to half and
Forget
half.
what you publish. Like you personally, like when you're managing your own personal account, are you more of a premium harvester or are you more of a directional trader?
So I should say that I would say I'm close to half and half. But when I'm long theta, I'm always long theta through a spread. I'm never long theta outright through a call or a put. I'm always short something on every single trade, right? So I would certainly say that slightly more short theta trades than long theta trades would be my preference. And for the most part, when I'm selling credit spreads, which is predominantly what I do on the short theta side. It's more so on the put side than I do selling calls, simply because of the fact that, if you look at the market, right, I think over the last 30 years, the percentage is like 56% of 55% of weeks are up,
Yeah.
45% of weeks are down. So immediately you have a skew to the upside in terms of probability, right? So puts, just from a directional perspective, have a higher probability. um, but in terms of selling a credit spread, you're short volatility. So if you get a bounce in the stock, that typically will be a collapse in vol. Versus if you're short call spreads, when the stock declines, that usually is a decline. It is usually a decline in volatility. So we tend to find that put spreads work a little better for from a
Yeah.
probability perspective in the long run. But gold is a little different, right? Because it's not a an equity. It's so that's where I think.
You know what's really fascinating about gold is it's got the right tail skew on the vol, right? And
Right.
so normally you're dealing with left tail on most equities, right? And so selling call spreads on gold has a completely different dynamic than doing call spreads on a normal equity, right?
Right. Um, and so I'm just looking at a call credit spread on gold right now, and the risk reward doesn't look particularly strong. Usually, call spreads you can get 1.5 to 1 risk reward on a call credit spread, but on gold it's close to 2 to 1. So not a particularly attractive trade in my opinion from a probability perspective.
Well, that's because of that right tail, right?
Yeah,
Because what's
exactly.
happening that vol premium is so high on the side there. Now, just so you know, Kevin, when he does do options, he's always a seller, right, Kev?
That's not
Like,
true.
well,
I
how
do
long?
buy.
How often do you go long an option?
Um, Very
Not
rarely,
often.
not often, but listen, I will buy. Like I was long fixed income vol. I'm long FX vol. If I think that it's fundamentally mispriced, I just don't regularly go out and buy
Yeah.
S&P vol because generally, if you look over time, it trades below and like realized. And
Right.
I get it that it like I understand all the if you time it, and I understand why you might want to be long, but it's just I grew up cut my teeth and eye teeth on an institutional equity derivative desk, and we were always seller of all, and it's hard to kind of change your habits. So.
Once
Yeah.
you are indoctrinated that way, it's hard to.
You guys have just never been on a desk and bleeding theta. And as much as
What do you mean?
being short,
I'm long as straddle. I know what it means to bleed theta.
yeah, but wait till you really bleed theta. Like you're like, oh, I remember buying eights, like 8%, going, this is so cheap. Like there's no way we're gonna make money, and we went long all sorts of theta, and getting up every day and just looking at this and watching your P&L just like drift away as you just lost every day. I saw someone the other day that said something like, I bought the low, sold the high, and I'm still down because I'm long theta. And like
Well,
what and that is what's going to happen. Like if you just don't get the moves, you're just it's difficult. And on the whole, people overpay for equity index vol at the very least.
Yeah,
So that's
I
why
will
I don't. But
say, long theta. One of my favorite markets to go long theta is actually currencies. My background's in currency trading. I was a spot currency trader for a very long time. I don't like trading spot currency. I like trading currencies through options because spot currency is difficult to trade, but I can take a directional view, because currency vol is very cheap to purchase, and you can buy these long dated currency options for next to nothing, and be able to take that directional view with limited risk. So currency is one of my favorite markets to buy calls and puts on.
Okay, all right. So one question for you here, because I don't know if you listened to the show, so hopefully you didn't. Would you be going long or short the pound here?
So I
Do you have
still
an
think,
opinion?
it's hard to go short when it's down so much. But I've got to say short, because
Nice.
I mean, like, there's
I
no
like this
chance
guy.
in hell. There's no chance in hell these guys are going to walk away with some sweetheart deal. Things are going to get fucked up over there.
I love it. He's got passion in his voice here, Kev. You know
I know,
what?
but everyone has passion in their voice about that. It's all in the price. That's all I'm arguing.
Oh my God.
And the fact
It's all in
that
the
the fact that
price
another
on
person says it
August
doesn't
9th.
make it just makes me feel better about my trade.
Oh my
Patrick.
God. Okay,
So what, you're
Tony,
long-
you got to understand.
Are you long
I
bird
think the
pound?
pound. I think that you should be erring on the long side here. Yeah.
Oh my God! You know what? You make me sick, Kev. Maybe. Listen, maybe. You know what? Maybe I'll eat my own words. We'll see. But you know what? You've been wrong ever since you made that bet. I mean, what are we down 200 pips since you opened your mouth a week ago?
Yeah. Listen, it's not going well. Like, I'm not going to deny that.
Are you long spot?
On pound, I'm actually short euro.
Euro pound?
Pound.
Oh,
right
the
now.
the Jaguar Mercedes or whatever you call it.
Yeah. I call it the Jaguar Mercedes trade.
Anyway, but like,
I
dude, you know what? I love the fact that you like to fade these things, and honestly, I think it's awesome. You just are always too early. Like
That's what my wife says all the time. So, Tony, I actually will agree with you. One thing that I think that if there's something that I would tell a lot of people that trade options on, if you're going to buy them, always go sell like if you're going to buy a put, go sell something on the other side, way down and out. Because I completely agree that too many people just buy outright and they're just long without it being a spread. And that's when the theta really kills you and stuff. So I'm a big believer in trading, call
okay,
spreads,
but you take away some of your delta. So when you put on a spread, do you go and double the position? Like what do you do?
Oh
Tony?
yeah,
Like,
no, I'll trade more for sure.
So you'll trade larger size with a spread rather than smaller size with a
because for me, think about, Patrick, you just said that I'm always fading stuff. If we're going to be down 15-20% in the stock market, chances are I'm going to probably be long, not short. So why would I want to buy an option where, unless I think that there's like a chance that we're going to get that sort of outsized move? If I think that at that point I no longer want to be short, I might as well sell it now.
Yeah.
And I'll do it through a spread. Now, we've talked about this before, Patrick. I actually feel like you're giving away the on gold. I wouldn't give away that. I wouldn't do a call spread on gold. Because to me, I feel like gold is...
Because I've collared before, and you don't like that.
Yeah,
you don't
I kind
like
of feel
collar.
like I kind of feel like now you might say that the same occurs with the stock market. If we're going to be down 10%, then why we might go down 20%, and then you're going to have given away. And maybe you're right, and I understand that argument as well. But for some reason, I don't feel the same way about. I just don't feel the same way about gold.
Yeah, because you're super bullish. Anyone with that
I think
kind
gold
of a
could go to
bias.
go crazy, and I don't want to be sitting there with the kind of the call spread, watching it as it doubles in my face.
Yeah. I totally
Tony,
understand.
how do you
my gold trade, I was meaning over the next couple of weeks. I think long term gold is headed to 170, 180.
Yeah. No, listen, I understand what you're saying, Tony, and I like the fact that you said I'm going to sell some call spreads here. I understand that trade. It's basically the same. I did a similar trade. I did call spreads on the long bond.
On TLT?
Yesterday, I trade futures. So I did it on their future, the real future. The long.
Or
I
did
did
you
the
do the
ZBs.
ultras?
No, I did the ZBs.
Got it.
So I go and I did that, and I agree. It's to me they're kind of trading the same. It's almost the same trade right now. So
yeah, because it's kind of it's a risk on, risk off thing, right? I think.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Well,
the bonds,
gold's going up because right now gold's going up because yields are going down so fast. It's a real rate trade. Like gold actually moves very, very similarly to the inverse of the 5-year real yield. So, but I look at this and I go, I'm scared because volatility's gone through the roof, but I don't want to pay up for like buy puts because I hate owning vol, and I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna short something, I'm gonna short it, and I'm gonna do call spreads on the ZBs or the USs. I don't know, like so that's how I did it, and I think it's almost the same trade as your gold, the selling call spreads on gold. So I think it's a very similar trade. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, they're very overbought markets, and so. But the problem is that trying to catch a top is not easy. Like I've had a number of people that have been emailing me asking whether they should, buy puts or short either of those two markets, and then day after day the market just keeps going higher. Even after it's like trying to get that. Like it's always surprising how far these things can go.
For sure, look, but that's why selling the call spread, I know what I can lose.
Yeah.
Like I sell a call spread and I go, okay, so I'm selling like a $2 call spread for $1. I don't know what the number is.
So now,
like,
Kev,
I know,
I know you. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would do something less than 45 days on your spreads, right?
Oh
like
shit! I did this month. So I'm like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I love the theta monster. I love the theta monster.
Yeah.
Working for me.
So, Tone, what's your average duration on a trade like that? Like, do you go a couple weeks out, or do you do a month or two? How long out do you go on when you do a credit spread like that?
We'll sell 4 to 6 weeks out, and we'll usually either take profit or cut losses 2 to 3 weeks in.
So 45 days. 45 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I've heard that number many times used by many people in our industry that basically talk. I think there's a number of research reports out there that show that theta really accelerates in the final 45 days, and that's where you get that real contraction. And if you go longer, then you're waiting too long.
The biggest problem with selling credit spreads is you're typically selling an at the money call or put, and what you get is a lot of gamma risk as you go into the last couple of weeks. So the research behind selling 6 weeks out and closing it out about 2 weeks before expiration is to avoid that gamma risk.
Right. Except for Kevin, who's selling only 2 weeks out.
Well, no, I sell everything. So it's just a question of. But I do think if you're going to be long something, you be long the longer dated stuff where there's almost no theta. You could buy some leap. You talked about the leaps on your pot stocks. There's almost no theta in that. It's all vega risk, which is meaning the risk of the implied volatility moving around. Yeah. And that's actually your biggest risk on those positions, like apart from your regular delta or whatever. But like otherwise, it's all vega that you're worried about.
Yeah, I mean it's really delta and vega. You're absolutely right. But the thing about buying near the bottom is that relatively. You're right. I'm trying to model out the vega risk on something like that, but I actually think with some of these longer dated ones, the vega is not as the sensitivity to delta is far larger than the sensitivity to vega. That it's not that big of a consideration for me.
No, you're probably right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so Tony, we're going to wrap up shortly. I'm going to ask you one thing. You said that you were selling some put spreads in a few stocks. Give us 2 names that we should look at for something bottom picking or picking some names that you think are good put spreads to sell.
So I just sold some put spreads on CMI.
Okay, what's that? I don't even know. I'm sorry. CMI. Was that Chipotle?
Cummins.
Oh, I don't know.
CMG. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this.
But okay, so you think that's oversold, right? So yeah, that missed on its earnings on Cummins and nosedives, and you're looking for the bounce. I like it.
Tony, but this distributes diesel and natural gas engines. Don't you know everyone's going electric, buddy? Anyways, I like that trade. Give me, Tony, that was complete sarcasm. I like that trade. It looks like it's into support. I understand why you're doing that, and I am assuming with the move we got it implied that's gone up. What's your second name? What else you like?
I was looking at some of the pharmaceuticals. So ALGN.
The ALGN here. No, that's
blow it again?
Allergen?
Technology.
Align.
Oh, it gapped down on some bad.
Sorry.
Yeah, Align.
Align Technology, not pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
But I do have some other pharmaceuticals as well.
Like allergen is AGN. Are you trading allergen at all?
No.
That had that gap.
ALGN is the actual trade that
Yeah.
I'm trading.
That's a line
Oh,
technology.
this is the teeth straightener that you wear at night.
The teeth straightener?
It is. Yeah, this is what it is. The Invisalign.
Really? I
you
had no
talking
idea
about
that's what they
ALG?
did. Yeah.
I like it. You know what? You're just like, I think it's cheap. Like, I'm going to do it. Okay, there you go. So there's two names. You got a diesel engine and teeth straightener. You got them both. They look like they're good put spreads. Tony, it's been a pleasure having you on our show. Why don't you give people one last kind of plug where they can find you to learn more about the different option strategies that you're recommending?
Yeah. So I don't know, Pat, if you still have the screen share up, but
Oh no, I don't have it up there. But anyway, yeah. So we have your I have your website up here, Options Play.
And if anyone wants, I think what Tony's referring to is the fact that there is a special code for Market Huddle listeners. And just if you want it, make sure you sign up for the actual Market Huddle weekly email. We'll include it in there. And if not, send Patrick an email. He'll be happy to send it to you.
Oh, thanks a lot for volunteering my email. But anyway, for all of our listeners, you'll get Tony's chart book in your inbox with the email that's coming out. So make sure you take a look and use Tony's links.
That's
sound
right.
good, Tony?
Yep. So
and hey, also make sure if anyone wants to hang out with Tony and me at the Toronto Options Education Day on September 14th, make sure you register and come and check us out.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been a pleasure to be on your show. This has been the most fun market talk I've ever done. I will say I would love to be back at some point in the future, and hope to see you guys soon in Toronto.
For sure. Right. Sounds great. That's what, that's always what a couple of beers and some scotches do to you, to your market talks. Anyways, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, Tony.
You guys are on to something. I'll tell you that.
Take care, buddy. Nice meeting you.
All right, thanks, Tony.
You too.
Cheers.
Have a good weekend.